Horizon Chance Home Switch Reacts, and this is Cyberpunked 2077 by the channel Big Boss. Yeah, this is a pretty famous, holy shit, this is pretty famous video, 2 million views in just a few months, People told me to react to this a lot, so yeah, I guess another video that talks about how Cyberpunk failed at the start or something, I don't know. So, when it comes to Cyberpunk 2077, I played the game, I started it, then there was a lot of graphical bugs for me at least. Because of the drivers didn't come out or some shit like that. You could see grasses through building and shit like that. So I didn't play it. I'm like, I'll let this patched up a bit. Then I didn't play it for a fucking year. Until what? The recent 1.5 patch came. Then I finished the whole game, right? And I didn't find any issues there. The game was, I guess, fine, right? Playable and good, I'm pretty sure the combat system was somehow refined. At the start of the game, I remember, it doesn't matter what I do, I've always felt, overwhelmed when I'm fighting something. There were way too many bugs, people were shooting through the walls and shit like that. That wasn't the case with the latest 1.5 patch. And when it comes to Cyberpunk as whole, I love the city, right? Literally no game in the world has city like this. It was properly metropolitan, dense city. When you walk around Night City, it feels big. When you sit inside of some NPC for some mission where they slowly drives around the city, it feels epic, right? They didn't do a lot of things right, like driving and shit. I mean, it's not easy to get those things right. So there were lots of issues there, but overall, the city and everything was great. Storyline, I don't know, I have issues with storylines as well. Like when it comes to immersion, how the storyline, I guess, plays out and ends and how short it is and how storyline kind of steers you. It just felt a bit like half done in a way, right? And first of all, the whole main story of like how V's dying, right? You're supposed to do something about it. You are always inclined to play the main story, right? Because if you're dying, right, you can't just step outside and do some side quest that has no meaning to you as a personal character. So when you play an open world type of game, RPG style game, doesn't matter, how much you try, the concept of it, like what's the story of this character, right? Where it's going. It always matters to immersion, right? To most open RPG game, I can stay away from the main story, but that wasn't the case with Cyberpunk. You kind of feel you need to do main story, and main stories are so short, like 3 branching arcs that just like 1 or 2 missions each, and by the time it just end mission comes, I don't know, it felt really, like the city was big, way too much effort was put in it, but the game kind of fell short because of it. So I don't know, but overall it was fun, right? It felt like, it's completely different thing, the city and everything. But yeah, let's see how Big Boss talk about it. Since it's a pretty famous video, I'm guessing this is gonna be a really good video, but I don't know, let's watch it.
This video is sponsored by Displate. Over the last few decades, open world games have made incredible strides. With each generation, the worlds get bigger, the graphics better, the content richer. As computing power absolutely rocketed, open world games blazed the path for how it could be put to use. And by 2013, games were recreating cities like LA and San Francisco in jaw-dropping detail.
Yes.
It was evident. These games were the future. And that future was looking great. Then something started happening. See, the promises kept getting bigger.
What is this, Internet Story 2.0?
Impressive. But when it came to the actual games, well, something was off. Destiny looked amazing, but then its entire story was gouged out and repackaged as paid DLC. No Man's Sky looked incredible, but when it launched, every trailer turned out to be an outright lie. Okay, at least we still have Mass Effect. Jesus Christ. The tech was improving, but the games somehow seemed to be getting worse. And after countless
If you play Mass Effect Andromeda without thinking that this is like the original trilogy, like this, if you don't go in a hype as the original trilogy, this is just a game that is in the universe of Mass Effect. If you play it like that, it's not so bad, right? But if you go in thinking the original trilogy, no, it's not even gonna come close. You will be fucking disappointed by that point.
Gamers were left famished.
This music.
It's early 2015. For the last few years, Todd Howard and the boys at Bethesda had been absolutely smashing sales numbers and raking in hundreds of Game of the Year awards in the process. Todd had built an open-world empire, but now he was finishing up his next blockbuster game, Fallout 4, set to release at the end of the year. However,
That was some
at the
E3
same
though.
time, a relatively obscure developer based in Poland is doing the same thing.
Oh, I
For
play
the last
Witcher 3
few
music.
months, CD Projekt Red had been putting the finishing touches on the third installment of their open-world fantasy series. It had been 3.5 years of blood, sweat and tears, but now things were finally wrapping up. And in May 2015, The Witcher 3 is set to release. CD Projekt Red's management sits round. Review copies had been sent out a few weeks prior, and the reviews were expected at any moment. The suspense was palpable. But eventually, the reviews come in, and the game is absolutely staggering.
Yeah,
It
it
snapped
was.
with 9s and 10s across the board, and the game
Holy
flies
shit, it
off
was
shelves
epic.
everywhere. Millions of dollars of profits are conjured almost instantly. Management is euphoric. Impressive. But wait, we have a game too. And the
Okay, I didn't know the story is gonna carry through Bethesda Game Studio side by side. Okay, Witcher 3, if I'm gonna say in short, why was so good for me at least. It had all the elements of big ass games, but it had more content with it. Like, once you play out a lot of stories, do lots of Witcher content, upgrade your fucking gear, and become really badass, at that point there's still so much to do. Most games don't do that. Most game, if you just play side quests, side stories here and there, you just upgrade your character to really badass level, and there you go. It's just last mission left. There's no more content. The game is over, and that always feels like, what the fuck. Cyberpunk also had that feeling, right? I mean, I know the developer said that Witcher 3 people felt the main story was so long, so Cyberpunk is not that big, but it doesn't even come close to each other. Right? In Cyberpunk, you do the main, start of the game, right? And then the event happen, right? Where everything goes to shit. You feel like now the story is going to pick up. And then there's 3 branching stories, right? One, basically Takamura, I think, right? He basically takes you on 1-2 short mission. Then there's a big mission with the parade thing. And that leads to the last mission, right? Other 2 story, basically, one is, go to the, cloud district or whatever, and that's it. I know there's a branching story that gives you a whole, side quest with one of the characters, side story. But the main story, that's one mission, and that's it. That you go to some Pacifica or something, is very short, right? The other one with the rogue and thing, you just do one heist of a guy, and that also come close to an end. I know Panam story is also side quest, but still, main story is way too short in Cyberpunk compared to Witcher 3.
The massively anticipated Fallout 4 is released a few months later. It does very well, and also gets raving reviews. "2015's Game Awards are tense. Game devs from all around the world are sat down, anxiously waiting for the big one, Game of the Year. Todd had won the majority of the Game of the Year awards for the last 4 games he directed, and he was keen to win them for this one
Come on,
too.
really?
The developers sit through
Not
hours
for
of
Fallout
obscure
4.
awards. But eventually, Game of the Year is announced.
The Witcher 3.
In fact, it ends the year winning the most Game of the Year awards ever.
Damn.
Bethesda's streak of wins burned to ashes. Todd was furious. Put the gun down, Todd.
Phil is saying, let the gun down, Todd, because it's not real, it's a replica from Fallout 4.
And while the rest of the industry turns to repackaging free mods into paid DLC,
Yeah.
enormous graphical downgrades,
Seriously,
and
man.
literal lies about their games and trailers, CD Projekt Red gets to work on 2 massive expansion packs.
Oh,
big enough to be
Blood
a
and
whole
Wine was
game of
epic.
their own. And turns out, they're half the price of Fallout 4's. Also, did someone say free DLC? People were in love. Move after move, everything CD Projekt did was just right. After 28 years in the business, they'd finally made it.
Again, the music.
So new fans of the studio rush to see their next project. Another Witcher? No. A different fantasy franchise? Also no. Eventually, they find themselves on a
Oh,
video
yeah, the
uploaded a
trailer.
couple of years prior. Cyberpunk 2077. A teaser trailer for CD Projekt Red's next game. Looked cool. Details on it are
Wait a
sparse.
minute. I remember during this trailer, right? They said that if you do a damage to some building, they're going to repair it over time. I didn't check that. Does that happen in the actual game? I mean, while playing the game, I didn't focus on that.
But here's what we know. It was more ambitious than The Witcher 3 on every single front, and was basically a futuristic RPG version of GTA. Sign me up. The release date? Well, when it was ready. Okay, so people wait. And wait. And wait. It's now 2017, and after 2 years of waiting, there's still no word. And the game, along with the studio, drifts back into obscurity. But finally, in 2018, we get something did instantly. But not for long. Turns out, Todd is also at E3, and he has a little something to show off.
Oh god.
Fallout 76.
Oh
The
god.
first multiplayer Bethesda game studios
Wow,
RPG
that thing
ever
killed
made.
Fallout.
And it was launching in
I'm
just
okay with everything, right? I can, but just making this like a community effort thing where everybody just does thumbs up, everybody comes together. Let's build the fucking settlement. Like, did you even forget the what it means to play Fallout? Like, mostly empty, one guy's journey, right? It has to be very, I don't know how else to explain this, but community effort. You have friends with you at the fucking settlement. Everybody just talks with this kind of a sign language. How is this Fallout?
a few months. Todd's promises were impressive. Sorry CD Projekt, but there was only one thing to do. And after months of excitement, in November 2018, Fallout 76 goes live. It didn't quite live up to the hype.
The bugs.
Tales of missing canvas
Oh, yeah.
bags, scuffed merchandise, exploits, and a literal horde of bugs flood online forums and Reddit
Oh,
almost
God.
the second the game launches. YouTubers jump on the game like a pack of dogs. Bethesda fights back with a few patches. Patches that were almost bigger than the size of the actual game. But they never stood a chance. A god had fallen.
Hey, look, Bethesda always have been buggy from the day one, from the Morrowind Oblivion times, right? But not at this level. This Fallout 76 is just like how even the indie studio with very small team wouldn't do this shit. This level of bugs, come on.
Gamers mourned their death for months. But at this
Sometimes
point,
it doesn't just work.
open world game developers were dropping like flies. Rockstar had ditched GTA's single-player DLC to sell flying cars and laser guns to 10-year-olds in GTA Online. BioWare's games had progressed about a decade, and something at Bethesda had clearly gone horribly wrong.
The game is destabilizing.
CD Projekt was the only developer people had
Seriously,
left,
oh god.
and they put their full faith in them to deliver on Cyberpunk 2077. And CDPR aimed to do just that. In August 2018, they drop a 50-minute demo of the game.
Witcher 3 had bugs, but the bugs that were, I guess, resolved very early. So most people who played Witcher 3 don't know about it, right? So Witcher 3 just felt perfect. The game was perfect. The story, the feeling, music. I mean, imagine the main story playing in the Velen and the branching story that comes from it. The family of Baron and everything around it. And this just feels like the beginning. This whole Novigrad, this whole Skellige thing going. Oh my god, the game was so detailed, so big, so greatly made. Every simple thing, like the children playing in Velen. The only children, nobody's around. When you come back after some times, there's nothing there but just blood marks. It's like, what the fuck, that hits you. I mean, creator of that guy, right? Witcher 2 was epic too. But not as Witcher 3 level, but Witcher 2 was great. I've been playing CD Projekt games since Witcher 1. Right? Witcher 3 was just completely different. And imagine they say like, we are working in this game for 8 years. I mean, I'm a bit of cynical guy. I always had this feeling like, holy shit, if this explodes, it's gonna explode really bad. But everybody just thought like, they can't go bad. Witcher CD Projekt Red is just the perfect developer. Anything they make is gonna be perfect. Whenever there's hype like that, yeah, it's going down.
Alongside a sea of articles and press releases. It looks mind-blowing. Non-linear missions with tons of choices and branching endings. A game world and storyline that reacts to your actions. Complex community and crowd systems that would make for the most believable city in an open world game to date.
It
Random
kinda is
encounters
though.
and events. player backstories with far-reaching campaign consequences, explorable buildings with multiple floors, multiple apartments, an in-depth wanted system and corrupt police, wall running, over 1,000 NPCs with their own routines, an online multiplayer added post-launch, and more. And it would be available on every current platform, including Xbox One and PS4. Things were shaping up great. But fast forward a few months, and at E3 2019, the final bombshell drops.
Oh yeah.
Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
CD Projekt Red had created something incredible. The graphics were borderline photorealistic, the city utterly immersive. Even Poland's own government were hyped. It was to be the first quadruple A game, people said.
Kind
and
of
we'd be
was
able
though.
to jump in on April the 16th.
Kind of was the look of the game. I mean, come on, are you seriously? I mean, no game you can put front of this that is like that with the city, how many people are there, the parade mission. That was epic.
2020. The hype was monumental. Before we get onto that, your room. Are those walls empty? My God. Hold on. What's that? A high quality metal poster for a reasonable price? That's right. Displate specialises in one thing. Posters. Posters, posters, posters. 1.4 million different posters. Anything you could possibly want. Like gaming, sports, movies, or are you a gentleman of class? Displate has it all. Don't have a picture hook? Not a problem, because Displates use magnets. It's simple. Scrub wall, wait 10 minutes, sticker on wall, Displate on sticker. It's that easy. Super fast delivery, countless designs, and a tree planted in Africa after every purchase. And you can get a special discount on Displates through the link in the description. Also, check out the Big Boss Displate store for some cool designs. Now. So people are hyped for the game. However, over at CD Projekt Red, things aren't going so great. Management says the game is launching in around a year's time, and things weren't moving quite as fast as they'd hoped. While the game technically started development in 2012, development basically just consisted of a few dozen people throwing ideas around. This goes on for a few years, but in 2016, the rest of CDPR finally jump on board. And most of their work is scrapped right out the game. Okay, so the game's story and gameplay concepts are reworked from the ground up. This means that key game elements are either completely changed or outright scrapped. Now the management at CDPR are still ambitious. This game was going to be a big one, and that meant that it was going to need a lot of work. But that was okay. They had 4 years of development ahead of them. Well managed and executed, this was going to be a breeze. 4 years later, and it's now January 2020, and the game is barely out of alpha. This is just 2 months out from launch. Higher ups realise they should probably actually develop a finished game, so in comes CD Projekt Red's management. Wake the fuck up, game devs. We've got a game to crunch. And so, CDPR's PR team come out to the public. Sorry lads, it's not quite ready yet. Come back in a few months' time. It was okay. They still had a lot of development on their plate, but now they had more time. If everything goes according to plan, they should be able to get this thing out relatively polished.
I'm pretty sure people give death threats, right? After that, when they said like, we are gonna need few months or whatever, the game's not ready, if I remember correctly. And people were that level of pissed. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, it's just a game in the end, man. Come on, people.
Sorry fellas, the country's closed. Come back in a few months' time.
Oh yeah.
Dear God. Alright, less than 6 months left of development time and now everyone's working from home. Not exactly ideal. Right boys, we're gonna have to cut some corners here. Multiple apartments? Scrap them. Wall running? Not important. The children? Forget them. See those adults? Downsize them. That looks great.
Oh yeah,
And
I
eventually,
never even noticed
after
that.
months of crunch and a couple more delays, a new release date is in. December 10th, 2020. Early December. The board of directors look at each other, petrified. Their share price had rocketed to over $10 billion.
Oh yeah,
and they were
damn,
now
that
the
was some
most
big thing.
valuable company on the Polish stock exchange. Poland's president calls CDPR. Their entire economy laid on the back of this game's launch. If it was a flop, they'd be executed one by one. They could not cock this up. They couldn't delay again.
I don't want to put pressure on CDPR, but the whole police economy depends on this game. If this game fails, Poland fails, and then he sends one by one all the children's photo of different houses from Poland. Look at those faces.
Or they'd miss the holiday sales period. Investors would be furious. But on the other hand, the game was still a bit rough. They eventually come to a conclusion. Launch the game. Development had taken 7 years and cost $121 million. But at last, on December the 10th, the world would finally be able to play Cyberpunk 2077.
Seven years was way too big time, man. Come on.
December 9th, one day before launch. Early reviews are looking good. YouTubers and review sites aren't actually allowed to use their own game footage in them, which is a bit strange. But they're saying the game does the impossible. It actually lives up to the hype. That was it. People that hadn't already pre-ordered now had no reason to hold back. And the game racks up around 8 million pre-orders by launch. 7 years of patience, and almost a year of delays on top. But the wait was finally over. And at 12 AM on December 10th, Cyberpunk launches, and people press play. For PC players with decent rigs, the game runs reasonably well, the story is great, and the graphics are amazing. But stray away from the main missions for 5 minutes, and things start to seem off. Walk with me. We're walking round the most believable city in a video game to date, and yet that man barely has a face.
This is epic.
Is he really disabled? Look at your own shadow.
Oh
Does
my
that
god,
look normal
the
to
Matrix things is awesome.
Look at those people. Anything seem off? Look, a car's supposed to fly? Over there. Is that normal? Your inventory. Open it. That looked like a katana to you?
What?
Is that really an assault rifle? Were you listening to me? Or were you looking at the man with no head? More issues.
I love this channel.
Incredibly broken armor stats means that dressing like a bin man provides more protection than a full-blown combat suit.
Oh, that's just bullshit.
Futuristic bulletproof military armor? Nah, I'm good, son. The game has a detailed crafting system, but there are a few problems. First up, it's incredibly broken. Every item you pick up or craft on PC adds data to the save file. Great. However, if that save file exceeds 8 megabytes in size, your save file is now corrupted and completely unplayable.
Oh god, that shit happened in New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas had the same shit. If the save file gets bigger and bigger, it starts to get all fucked, then your whole game is fucked. You can't reload back and it's just ruined. You have to start a whole new playthrough. Oh, this is just fucked up.
Players with this issue log on to CDPR forums and ask if there's anything they can do to solve or prevent this issue. Eventually, they receive an answer. Just stop playing the game. Okay. The visuals of Cyberpunk are generally amazing. However, there are a few issues here as well.
If you have breathing difficulty, just don't breathe. Just die. That's what they just said.
See, even though you never actually see yours in-game, Cyberpunk 2077 grants you a plethora of options for your genitals. But wait, turns out there's a bug going round. And those genitals you've just customised are now clipping through every single pair of trousers you can put on. My god. Other visual bugs include headless men, glitchy trees, and a metric ton of T-posing, and more.
Good luck. Got a feeling we'll be...
That's a good bug right there, because fuck that guy.
Then there's the console performance. It's not great. In November 2020, CDPR said old-gen consoles were running surprisingly well. Just under a month later, we got to find out for ourselves.
The PS4 thing is
Population
epic.
of Night City is decreased to the point where it looks almost abandoned. Graphics are absolutely abysmal.
Look at that shit.
And the resolution bounces from 900p to as low as 720p. Even with all of these compromises, the FPS barely manages to hit 25, and often stoops to as low as 10. Then there's the rendering issues, paper mache faces, constant crashes. All in all, Cyberpunk 2077 has a few technical issues.
Seriously, man, I have GTX 1080, an i7 6700K overclocked to 4.6 gigahertz or something, if I remember correctly. Yeah, with 3200 megahertz, RAM. And even I cannot play this with good graphics, right? I mean, first of all, if I want to play at 1080p, I can't even play it at full. Like, I have to lower it like somewhere medium, right? If I want to play 1440p, I can't until I watch sort of the shadows at all. So there is no shadows. How the fuck am I supposed to play that? The only turnaround I could do is there was a AMD's feature there who does the upscaling, right? I forgot the name, Fidelity FX or something. That is like equivalent to NVIDIA's DLSS or something. But NVIDIA's DLSS only works with the 20 series and up. Cannot play it on 1080, while I use AMD's upscaling. That's just fucked up. I have an NVIDIA graphic card and I'm using AMD's upscaling. While NVIDIA's DLSS is just there, but I can't use it.
Early trailers of the game said everything is subject to change, and everything did. Trailers show clubbing and a host of other interactive activities. However, it turns out that about half of that was taken from the game's initial cutscene, and then forgotten about forever. Trailers also imply drive-by shooting and police pursuit, but neither of those are in the game either. In-game areas and promotional material suggest a massive metro system that you'd use to get around Night City. However, all of that was cut out and replaced with a fast travel system. A functioning metro system
what the
has
fuck?
since been
Seriously, what the fuck? The metro thing, I even forgot that. That's the thing. The trailers were such a long ago. When I played the game, I even forgot about that. But yeah, all that shit, and even all the trailer scenes they were showing is kind of the prologue thing, right? With the start with the Jackie. And even when you arrive as a nomad or whatever, the introduction to the game is just one cutscene where they just jump around and just play, and there you go. Now you know everything there is to know, and you're just doing some gig. They should have added, even if it had made game a bit longer, they should have added the learning curve there, where you slowly get introduced rather than just a cutscene where you just becomes best buddy with Jackie. 6 months pass. They shouldn't have done that. They should have given us those 6 months to get used to things, and then the main mission happened at Arasaka or whatever.
modded into the game. The 1,000+ NPCs with their own routines are replaced with walking potatoes that literally despawn from the world the second they leave your field of view. They only have
this
one
still
piece
happens.
of dialogue,
People
can't
just
defend
disappear like that.
themselves, and seemingly have no driving AI, or any AI at all. The police system? Well, it's not really a thing. Shoot someone in the back of the skull with no one else around for miles? Unlucky. 2 cops have just spawned right behind your back.
That's
In any
immersion
other
breaking
game,
right there.
That'd normally be an issue. But in Cyberpunk, literally just run 5 seconds away from them and they'll completely despawn from the world. Nice. Got a car? Even better, because cops in this game can't even enter a vehicle.
Well, we're waiting.
Also, about the far-reaching player backstories, well, they only really change the first few minutes of the game. They also add a few unique dialogue options,
Yeah.
but they have little to no effect on anything. Then there's the wall running, cut, multiple apartments, gone, non-linear missions.
Man, I'm pretty sure there are apartments you can rent, right? I guess that was added in 1.5 patch or something, because in the current game you can definitely rent apartments.
1 or 2 in there. NPC routines, explorable buildings. Okay. So the game doesn't have all the features in the trailers and articles, but it doesn't stop there. The game's baseline features are, well, subpar.
Driving is
So
awful,
subpar
seriously.
that multiple videos are uploaded to YouTube, showcasing how Saints Row 2, GTA San Andreas, and even Half-Life 1's Cockroach AI is more advanced. Okay, at this point, it was clear. There was only one thing left to do.
I'm gonna ask for a
Don't want to pause too much, but seriously, the AI thing is kind of understandable because let's be honest, at this gigantic scale of a city with this many NPCs, you can't have complex AI even if it means Half-Life's AI is better, right? Because if they had added that, even the top i9 would have burned up. Because when it comes to computing power, it's ridiculous. You need much more powerful processor to make all the AI more complex in city like this. I know they could have done somewhat better, but it's kind of understandable. And when it comes to driving just fucking suck all around. It's just horrible, especially bike driving. I have a super bike. I do drive faster in tracks and everything, right? And the whole physics of it is fucking ridiculous.
fund.
Goodbye, samurai.
Refunds, refunds, refunds. Refunds everywhere. CDPR is hit with a meteoric shower of refunds. And the game is in such a terrible state that, against their own general policies, Xbox and PlayStation actually allow them. By the way,
PlayStation removed it,
has
right?
literally removed the game
Oh, yeah.
from their online store to do this. Naturally,
That's some next
the
level
game
shit.
is memed into oblivion, and CDPR is dragged through the gutter in the press and online for months to come. A few pieces of
A
CD
top AAA developer, a quadruple A apparently game, got removed by Sony completely. That is just some next level shit. Even the Hello games at that point, like, yeah, son, that's just fucked up.
PR's marketing also becomes a lot more relevant. CDPR's stock price also absolutely craters and falls by 50% in a matter of weeks. Dear God, those investors do not look happy. They filed several class action lawsuits instantly. Nevertheless, the game still sells a ton of copies,
Yeah.
and massive bonuses are dished out to management within a few months.
Still a lot of
Delicious.
profitable.
However, a few weeks later, and CD Projekt's PR team comes out of the shadows. Okay, yeah, the game's a bit rough. Here's a roadmap of how we're going to fix it. That roadmap slowly changes over time as CDPR fail to hit deadline after deadline, but over the next few months, patches are added and the game slowly improves.
Yeah.
Is that actual NPC AI? My god. It takes 6 full months of patches, but the game is eventually stable enough to be added back to the PlayStation Store. CD Projekt Red have since scaled back their plans for multiplayer, and are still patching the game to this day.
Nah, they're almost
So
done now.
CD Projekt Red continues
1.5
the
was a
slow
big one.
rollout of updates in an attempt to restore the game to its original promise. But whether or not Cyberpunk is ever patched to the point it resembles the trailers of the game,
Nah.
one thing is certain. Gamers are done. While there has been the odd redemption, CD Projekt Red was the last straw. That was it. No more pre-orders. No more hype trains. No more anything.
That's good,
The
actually.
lies were not going to work again. But then they locked eyes with him. He whispers something in their ear about being 4 times the size. How
God.
could they resist?
Now it's 1,000 planet.
They'd won again, and they'll keep winning, because they know how to sell you a game, whether or not it's the same game that comes out at launch. From where you're sitting, it probably looks like an 18-carat run of bad luck. But the truth is, the games are rigged from the start.
Yeah. Best reference to N2. Love this shit, man. Oh my god, this channel is so good. This is like alter ego of Internet Historian or something. Man, look, I'm just gonna say after 1.5 has the latest one, the game is more than playable. The issues are there, but let's be honest, not everybody can be Rockstar, right? When it comes to driving and shit, it's not easy, right? It's really not easy. Wait a minute, I have to remove the shit word there. It's really not easy to create an open world car, vehicle, modern game where vehicles are good. GTA 5's vehicle system were way too complex than people realize. Anybody who had modded that or edited the file would have realized like how complex that system is with suspense and everything. In that GTA 5 it's really hard to drift, But if you mod, if you mod certain files and realize that there is an entire suspension system, chassis system, engine system, turbo system, it's not just simply like put certain words and it's going to go faster. It's a complex system. If you tweak that, you could really make a really great car, drifting car, things like that. Only reason the original cars cannot be drifted because like it has traction control or something like that. But GTA 5 was really complex. But let's be honest, that's Rockstar. That's the fifth Grand Theft Auto game they're making. And they have the biggest fund there is. GTA 5 is way too successful. Making GTA 5 was way too costly. You can't really compare other games to GTA 5 in that way. So what Cyberpunk did, right? So first of all, 7 years was too much, right? Same thing with the, Bethesda Game Studios. 10 years between games. Next Fallout is going to come out, what, 2030 or something, even more? That's like 15 years between two Fallout. So next Elder Scrolls is going to be, what, 2026? Again, 15 years. Are you kidding me? I mean, they made Oblivion, Fallout 3, Morrowind in what, 2-3 years gap? It's like nothing. It's like 2004, then, 2005, then 2008, 2011. These are the massive scale games. I get it, the technology is rising, but that's just technical front. Add 1 or 2 years to that. Like instead of 3 years, 5 years, 15 years, what the fuck are they doing there? Cyberpunk here, 7 years. The game was untouchable with the city and everything, right? But 7 years was a bit too much, right? So yeah, the game, if you play it right now, it still has, you still would love to play it. It still looks next gen, right? With everything, city is nighttime when you drive around the city, right? The missions are great too, but there are quirks here and there. Like weapon system could have been better in a way, right? The sniper still shoots through you massive walls, which doesn't make sense to me. Hackers that burns you, right? Even if there is no camera around, they somehow still sees you and burn you. Right, there's a skill trait there that could counter that, but still that's an issue. Vehicle driving, all that an issue. Sometimes there is bugs, people still disappear. If you're driving a fast car and you take a turn, suddenly a car appears and you just slam into it, there's still issues there. But after 1.5 patch is more than playable and it's a good game. But yeah, the reputation is ruined after the launch. So yeah, future game, I don't know. Starfield is a pretty critical point. Like if Starfield is not as good as Skyrim or pre-Skyrim games of Bethesda Game Studios, I don't know. The hope is all lost. Like BGS is done after that, right? Who knows how next Witcher is going to be. I still have hope for Starfield because I'm going to ignore Fallout 76. Like they try to do multiplayer thing. It's a different approach. You can't really compare a single player and multiplayer game together. So if they're fucked up at that front, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to fuck up at RPG open world single player games. Fallout 4 wasn't great, but they tried to make it more mainstream by removing RPG element. But since then, they have realized that RPG element is crucial. Even games like Elden Ring, right, who doesn't require that much RPG elements, has it. So Bethesda has realized like there's no point of removing these RPG elements, let's put that back in. So Starfield has lots of RPG element, not at Morrowind level, right? But then most people won't be able to play it. So it's still kind of like mainstream but RPG element. So I'm hoping Starfield is good. And Thousand Planets, yeah, those are going to be empty, but those are going to be like dungeon type of shit. It's still going to be fun. It's what I envisioned when I thought of Mass Effect. It doesn't have to be much, but it just has this feel of adventure. Imagine going to the Sol system and going to the Mars, seeing Earth in the sky, right? Somewhat blip of Earth in the sky while you see the Curiosity rover right there. Those kind of experience is gonna stick with you. I bet Starfield is going to be good, because what makes BGS game good, I'm pretty sure they can mess that up. They can somewhat dial it front and back, but the core is still going to be there. But yeah, Cyberpunk is fine, but I think CDPR is great at making Witcher games, and I think next Witcher is going to be good if they don't fuck that up apparently, because of some investor this and that timeline and whatever crap. But yeah, alright people, I'll see you next time.